It's a fleeting moment in time. The ancients Emet-Selch and ffxiv are reunited with the reincarnation of their dearest friend. Their memories are fully restored. The inseparable trio remind Medion to believe in hope once again. The ancients' time is short. Soon their souls will depart for the afterlife. Emet-Selch has lived for thousands of years, but before he goes, the man shares one final request with his friend's spiritual successor.
Tell me, have you been to the ruins beneath the waters of the Bounty? Or the treasure islands beyond the frozen waters of blind frost in Offerd's north? The fabled golden cities of the New World, the sacred sites of the forgotten people of the South Sea Isles? What about Mericidia, the southern continent? Do you know aught of its present state of affairs? I thought not. Even of your little Eorzea, you know precious little. The true identities of the 12, for instance. All of which is to say, expand your horizons, go forth and seek discovery. Some of the civilizations in the reflections will surprise you. As the bearer of Azem's crystal, you may consider your duty to see at least that much. I certainly did.
Azem is gone. We are what remains. And Emet-Selch gives us this monumental charge. He and ffxiv depart for the ethereal sea to eventually be born anew, hopeful that we will take the bearing of Azem's crystal as seriously as he did. This is our duty. This is Azem's legacy. So, how does this request shape the Warrior of Light and parts of the story in Final Fantasy XIV Dawntrail? Let's explore the impact on the narrative, new characters, places, and challenges. Here is your spoiler warning for everything up through the 7.0 main story quests. My name is Stout, and I hope you enjoy. To understand how important this duty is, we need to know who Azem was, even though a great deal about them is shrouded in mystery. I highly recommend watching my original video on everything we know about Azem up to Endwalker. For this video, we're going to summarize Azem's personality, responsibilities, and values. The Azem we are referring to is the most recent person to hold that seat on the Convocation of 14. The Azem before them was Vana, and she nominated the most recent Azem as her successor. Azem's gender depends on the player. If your Warrior of Light is male, Azem is referred to as he or him. If they are female, Azem is referenced as she or her. For the purposes of this video, we will use they/them pronouns for Azem. The seat of Azem is known as the Traveler. Encyclopedia Eorzea Volume 3 refers to the position as the Pilgrim of the Star and Counselor to the People. This means that Azem traveled to foreign lands, immersed themselves in new cultures, and gave guidance on problems. EE Volume 3 also tells us the seats on the Convocation were given to people best suited for the roles they represent. We can infer from this that Azem was open-minded, adventurous, and benevolent. Azem was the black sheep of the Convocation. Emet-Selch describes them as reckless and unruly. Vana calls them whimsical. ffxiv refers to them as incorrigible, meaning unable to be corrected. Most members observed events around the star with a degree of detachment, even if those events were tragic. Azem didn't operate that way. They were headstrong, rejecting that detachment to get personally involved in events. They preferred to solve problems directly, instead of referring it to their colleagues on the Convocation. And it was common for Azem to gather friends and allies from localized regions to help them. Elidibus calls their perspective unique and refreshing, although he acknowledges that they were frustrating to other Convocation members. That, coupled with their sudden resignation in the days before the Zodiarch summoning, made them an outcast. All of the Convocation members had their memories preserved in constellation crystals. Azem, a defector, was deemed unworthy of that honor. Emet-Selch created Azem's crystal in secret. Azem did not agree with the Zodiark plan, but it's possible he didn't approve of the Hydaelyn plan either. Vanna reached out to her protege for help, but they never answered the call. The game's narrative and the accompanying short stories on the Lodestone paint a picture of a person who truly walked their own path. Kind-hearted, polarizing, and unpredictable. As of 7.0, the Warrior of Light is 9 shards of Azem's sundered soul. Characters who know them both instantly make the connection. I mentioned before that Emet-Selch considered Azem to be one of his dearest friends. That means his final request to the new carrier of Azem's crystal is truly priceless. The warrior does already check several of Azem's boxes by this point in the story. They are an adventurer by trade, willing to help those in need, and quite headstrong. But Azem's legacy means much more than that. 6.55 introduces us to matters in a foreign land. Wuk-Lamat is in Sharlayan and asks her friend Erenvel to bring her to the strongest fighter on the star. That's you. Wuk-Lamat is the third promise of Tuliolal and aims to take her father's throne on the continent of Tyrol. Wuk-Lamat wants the Warrior of Light as her champion, and it becomes clear very quickly that she is not prepared to rule. It's true, her heart is in the right place. She wants to preserve the era of peace that her adoptive father started, but she's very immature in a myriad of ways. She projects courage and strength, but we recognize that she lacks self-confidence. Wuk-Lamat is also loud, expressive, and excitable. Her youth and inexperience shows more than anything. Grahatia poses a question to the warrior before they officially commit. He knows we don't have a full picture of Tyrali affairs. Are we certain we want to accept Wuk-Lamat's request? Your answer doesn't change much in terms of dialogue. Final Fantasy XIV is not that type of game. But Graha reassures us that with our fearless attitude, things should work out, as long as we are true to ourselves. We agree to travel with Wuk-Lamat, and with that comes a major shift in storytelling. The Warrior of Light has been the main character of the Final Fantasy XIV story since A Realm Reborn. Dawntrail puts that spotlight on someone else. Wuk-Lamat is the protagonist of the 7.0 main story quest. That puts the Warrior of Light in a supporting role to the new lead, and it's clear that without us, Wuk-Lamat stands no chance of achieving her dreams. She professes undying love for her people, but early Dawntrail quests show us she's done very little to actually engage with them. Her knowledge of cultures and traditions is very thin. She's barely been outside the capital city. Wuk-Lamat's inferiority complex is also deeply connected to her siblings. She lacks the strength or respect that First Promise Zeralja has. Her intelligence and ingenuity pales in comparison to Second Promise Kona. Galul Jaja, her own father and the current Dawn servant, asks you point blank about your impressions of her. Even he, for all the love he has for his daughter, recognizes her flaws. But he's also optimistic. He hopes the outsiders in the game will inspire all 4 claimants to grow. But for the warrior, he wants us to guide her, walk by her side, and push her forward. I believe the Rite of Succession is the type of event that Azem would have involved themselves with. Galul Jaja is aging, and he knows Tyrol will need new leadership, and there are plenty of candidates, but none are truly ready for that responsibility. Azem was a counselor to the people. Part of the Rite of Succession is integrating with Tyrali cultures, reinforcing unity by taking an interest in their struggles. The Warrior of Light is not the main character for now. Instead, they serve as a mentor. They will guide Wuk-Lamat on a journey of discovery, not just on her own strengths, but truly appreciating the people she wants to protect. So the Warrior of Light plays an active role in all of the feats of the contest. They traverse new territory in Tyrol, mingling with the people and learn about their cultures. All the while, Wuk-Lamat is realizing how ignorant she is of her home. Tyrali culture is nearly as foreign to her as it is to the warrior, but a part of her growth comes from recognizing this ignorance. It motivates her to dive headfirst into the Rite of Succession. Wuk-Lamat starts her campaign with very few supporters. Only the elders who remember the hardships of war want to see her succeed. But with each feat, Wuk-Lamat's pool of supporters grows. They see she wants to preserve the diversity and peace that Galul Jaja and his companions fought so hard for. Wuklamot eventually inherits the throne, and we get to see a much larger number of Tirali citizens cheer for her, and she surprises everyone when she asks Kona to rule by her side. I know some of you will disagree with my next point, but please hear me out. There are a lot of parallels in Wuklamot and Azem. Both are considered reckless in their approach, and yet they have big hearts and a genuine love for the people. Azem preferred to solve problems in their own way. Their methods were often considered unusual and in some cases totally crazy. It's well known that Wuklamot's plans are unusual. Some are poorly thought out, but her heart is in the right place. That's why her insistence on giving Sphene the benefit of the doubt is frustrating from a narrative perspective. Wuklamot believes all peoples can reach an understanding. The hard truth is knowing that that is not the case here. But Wuklamot still walks that path, her own path. Wuklamot is still young and pretty inexperienced by the end of 7.0, and there are still many challenges ahead of her, like finding a way to cater to the needs of the Tirali and of the people in Heritage Found. But her travels with the Warrior of Light give her a new perspective. Without them, she may never have emerged from the shell of a spoiled princess. The once ignorant woman now knows a lot more about what it will take to lead Tiral's diverse population. She can be a proper counselor to the people, hearing about their struggles, lending a helping hand. Her father would certainly be proud, and I'd like to think that Azem would be proud of those values too. So the Warrior of Light is successful in their quest to mentor the princess. We walked by her side and pushed her forward, and yes, that means the warrior takes a back seat in the narrative this time around. I know that's a very divisive choice among players. What's the point in playing a video game if you're not the main character? I'd like you to consider this about our dearly departed Azem. Were they a hero to a lot of people? Absolutely. Were they powerful? A true force to be reckoned with? Definitely. But in ancient times, was Azem a main character? In my opinion, no. Their primary purpose was to guide and counsel people in need, lift others up and help them become better versions of themselves. Our encounters with Elidibus, Emet-Selch, Hythlodaeus, and Vanash show how their relationships with Azem influence them. Some of the choices they make reflect Azem's impact. They were never a main character. They filled a supporting role. So in the spirit of Emet-Selch's final request, it's not so unusual that the Warrior of Light takes a supporting role for now. And I want to emphasize that this change from main character to supporting role is almost certainly temporary. If you need evidence, look no further than the key artifact. It's the interdimensional device that fuels most of the second half of Dawntrail's plot. The key allows for the creation of portals and the fusion of reflections back to the source. Sphene was using this device to consume ether and souls to keep the living memory operational. Let's look back on the moments before that final fight with Sphene. Now the Queen Eternal, she calls the key to her and it begins to glow intensely, like it's being activated. The Warrior of Light holds Azem's crystal and begins summoning friends from afar to fight. The key suddenly stops glowing, almost like it was cancelled out. Azem's symbol appears over the top of the key. Was the key recognizing the soul of the person who created it? That's purely speculative, but there is circumstantial evidence to support that idea. Remember, Azem defected from the convocation and did not respond to Vanah's invitation. It's not like the Azem that we've heard about to sit idle when the star is in peril. It's much more likely that Azem wanted their own solution. And we know from the Pandemonium Raid series that it's very possible Azem had some awareness of future events. Maybe Azem created the key to try to fix the problems thousands of years after their demise. The only thing we can be certain of for now is that Azem stepped away from the Zodiark and Hydaelyn conflict for a good reason: to take their own path. Now this mysterious key is carried by their successor, and the Warrior of Light is certainly worthy of that title. They seem to spread Azem's will everywhere they go. I'm confident that the impact this key will have on future story chapters will put the warrior front and center once again. And that, my friends, is how Azem's legacy shaped the story of Dawntrail in 7.0. I hope this discussion showed some plot points in a new light for you, and I really want to hear from you. What do you think Azem was doing in the final days? Let me know in the comments. You can also let me know what topics you want to see me cover in future videos. I try to respond to as many comments that you leave as I can. And if you enjoyed this video, consider giving it a like. And if you want to support me, consider becoming a subscriber so you know when new videos come out. Take care, warriors, and I'll see you next time.